2 years passed. 2 years of grinding warfare across dozens of systems. The hegemony adapted their tactics. They studied human warfare. They built countermeasures. But they had learned their lesson too late. The galaxy had changed. Every council species now trained their forces in human military doctrine. Tank principles. Combined arms warfare. Redundancy and resilience. The elegant individualistic fighting style of the old council was gone, replaced by coordinated group tactics that emphasized survival and mutual support. Admiral Yoon led Operation Rolling Thunder, a massive offensive to liberate 3 captured worlds. The combined fleet moved through space like an armored spearhead. When hegemony forces tried to stop them, they hit a wall of coordinated firepower, artillery barrages, assault pods, ships covering each other's weaknesses. The liberation of the first world took 6 days of continuous fighting. The second world took 4. The third world, the hegemony abandoned without a fight. Day 1, now promoted to admiral, commanded the siege of Karagon, a hegemony fortress world heavily defended. Instead of attacking directly, Day 1 did what Earth's generals had done for centuries. He surrounded it, cut off supply lines, waited. Hana, now captain of the Incheon, coordinated the blockade. She had become one of the finest tactical minds in the galaxy, human or alien. Her strategies were studied at military academies across dozens of worlds. The hegemony is requesting negotiations, she reported after 3 months of siege. Surrender? Daewon asked. Complete surrender. They're offering to evacuate the planet in exchange for safe passage. Daewon approved it. The hegemony forces left Karagon, another world liberated without firing a shot. Tank warfare wasn't always about destruction. Sometimes it was about position, control, making the enemy choose between fighting a battle they couldn't win or giving up without a fight. Major Park, now General Park, led the breakthrough at Nexus Gate, the hegemony's main defensive line, meant to protect their core territories. His armored divisions punched through in a 3-day assault that military historians would study for generations. The breakthrough opened the way to hegemony home space. The war could have continued. The council could have pushed forward, destroyed the hegemony completely, but Ambassador Ji-Woo Park, now Secretary General of the Galactic Council, had other ideas. We've won, she told the council. The hegemony knows they've lost. They're requesting peace negotiations. We should accept. Why? General Krell asked. He had recovered from his injuries and become one of humanity's strongest advocates. We can finish them. Ensure they never threaten anyone again. Because that's not how you build lasting peace, Ji-Woo said. We've taught the galaxy how to fight. Now we need to teach them how to stop fighting. The Peace Summit took place on Earth, in the same museum where the ancient tanks were displayed, where General Krell had laughed 2 years ago. The hegemony's prime warlord walked through the exhibits with Admiral Yoon. He was a tall, thin being with too many joints and eyes that saw in spectrums humans couldn't perceive. He studied each tank in silence. They stopped before the M1 Abrams, the machine that had started everything, the tank that a galaxy had mocked. We thought these were jokes, the Prime Warlord said through his translator, relics of a savage past. We didn't understand they were lessons. Lessons you learned through suffering and taught to us the same way. Yoon nodded slowly. Every species that survives long enough learns these lessons. We learned them with these tanks, with ships before that, with swords and shields before that. The weapons change. The principles don't. Why spare us? The Prime Warlord asked. You could have destroyed the hegemony completely. Your Secretary General stopped the advance. Why? Because destroyed enemies can't become allies, Yoon said. Earth's history is full of wars. But our best allies now are species we once fought, former enemies who learned to work together. That's another lesson war taught us. Peace is harder than war, but it lasts longer. The peace treaty was signed in the museum's main hall, surrounded by tanks and artillery pieces and weapons from humanity's violent history. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. The war changed everyone. Daewon became head of the Galactic Defense Initiative, training mixed species forces. He taught aliens from dozens of worlds how to fight together, how to trust each other, how to survive. Hana continued commanding the Incheon, but now she also taught at the Galactic War College. Students from across the galaxy studied Earth's military history under her guidance. They learned about Stalingrad and Normandy, about the Ardennes and Incheon, about battles where humans had faced impossible odds and survived through determination and doctrine. Tae-young led a research institute where human and alien engineers worked together. They developed hybrid technologies, ships with alien weapons but Earth redundancy, shields with council sophistication but human reliability. The best of both approaches. Bora trained the first generation of mixed-species Marines, humans working alongside crystalline soldiers and Vraxian warriors and aqueous commandos. She taught them that boarding actions weren't about individual glory. They were about teamwork, trust, fighting for the person next to you. Dr. Hyunji Song established the Center for Interspecies Medical Research. The war had forced her to treat dozens of different species under combat conditions. That knowledge now saved lives across the galaxy. Medical techniques developed in desperation became standard practice in peacetime. General Park became the first human to command the unified Galactic Defense Force. Under his leadership, the military integrated tank doctrine at every level, armored divisions, mutual support, combined arms. The principles that had won the war now protected the peace. Admiral Yoon eventually retired. She could have kept commanding, but she chose to teach instead. At the War College, she lectured to packed halls. Aliens who had once mocked humanity now hung on her every word. 5 years after the war ended, the museum hosted a special ceremony. Earth donated one of every type of tank to create the Galactic Museum of Warfare. Not just human tanks. Vehicles and weapons from every species that fought in the war. The hegemony contributed their AI control nodes. The Vraxians brought graviton drive components. The Crystalline Collective donated shield generators. Each artifact told a story. Each one represented lessons learned in blood, but the centerpiece remained Earth's tanks. The machines that had been laughed at. The relics that became teachers. A plaque was installed in the main hall, written in 43 languages, representing every species in the council. The words were simple. These machines did not win wars because they were the most advanced. They won because those who built and crewed them understood that war is not about technology. It is about will, adaptation, and the courage to face superior force with superior strategy. On opening day, thousands visited. Alien cadets from the War College walked the halls, studying exhibits, taking notes. Hegemony officers examined Earth's weapons with respect instead of contempt. Crystalline scholars recorded everything for their archives. Dae-won attended with his command staff. They stood before the M1 Abrams together. Hana, Tae-young, Bora, Dr. Song, all of them veterans now. All of them survivors. Do you think they finally understand? Hana asked. Dae-won watched a group of young Vraxian officers studying the tank's treads, discussing the engineering principles. Nearby, hegemony students examined the armor plating, calculating thickness and composition. They're starting to, he said. Understanding takes time. We had centuries to learn these lessons. They're learning them in years. Give them time, General Krell approached them. He moved easier now, his wounds fully healed. He carried a datapad showing enrollment numbers for the War College. Applications are up 200% this year, he said. Every species wants their officers trained in human doctrine. Your tanks have become the most studied weapons in galactic history. Not our tanks, Dae-won corrected gently. Our lessons. The tanks are just metal and treads. The lessons are what matters. Ambassador Park arrived with a delegation of council members. She had aged in the years since the war, but her eyes remained sharp. She studied the exhibits with satisfaction. This is good, she said. We turn instruments of war into tools of education. We remember the cost of conflict. And maybe if we're lucky, we prevent the next war before it starts. And if we can't prevent it, someone asked. Jiwoo smiled slightly. Then at least the galaxy will know how to fight it. Together, as allies. Using principles that have been tested across centuries and proven in the worst wars imaginable. As the day ended and the museum began to close, Dae-won remained behind. He stood alone in the tank hall, surrounded by the machines that had changed everything. The Sherman, the T-34, the Abrams, they were old, primitive by galactic standards, but they had taught the galaxy something it desperately needed to learn, that survival wasn't about having the best technology. It was about understanding why technology mattered, how to use it, when to use it, and most importantly, understanding that the warriors using the weapons were more important than the weapons themselves. The tanks sat silent in the dim light, no longer objects of mockery, no longer just museum pieces, they were teachers, and their lessons had saved the galaxy. Outside, the stars shone over Earth, a planet that had once been dismissed as primitive, a species that had been laughed at. The Grand Hall on Valorum Prime stretched wider than 3 football fields. Crystal pillars reached up to a ceiling that showed the stars themselves, real and moving. Representatives from 40 different alien species filled the space, their strange bodies creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Some floated in bubbles of liquid, others stood on legs that bent the wrong way. A few were just clouds of glowing gas contained in force fields. Captain Daewon Kim stood near the back, his crisp Earth Defense Force uniform looking plain compared to the exotic clothing around him. His face showed nothing, but his jaw was tight. Next to him, Ambassador Jiwoo Park smiled and nodded at passing aliens, her diplomatic training hiding any nervousness. Behind them, Lieutenant Hana Lee checked her datapad, studying everything with sharp eyes. This was the Galactic Unity Summit, and Earth was finally here. After decades of watching from the outside, humanity had earned provisional membership in the Galactic Council. It should have been a proud moment. It should have been a celebration. Instead, it became a humiliation. The technology exhibition filled half the hall. Each species showed their greatest achievements. The Vraxian Empire displayed ships that moved faster than light without using any fuel. The Crystalline Collective showed weapons that could turn matter into energy with a thought. The Aqueous Federation demonstrated shields that nothing could penetrate. Earth's display sat in a corner. They had brought historical military vehicles. An M1 Abrams tank, a Sherman tank from World War II, a Russian T-34. The machines were polished and clean, their metal surfaces reflecting the strange lights of the hall. Small holographic displays explained their history, their battles, their importance to human civilization. Nobody cared. Daewon watched as aliens walked past Earth's display without stopping. Some glanced at the tanks with confusion. Others didn't look at all. He felt his fists clench and forced them to relax. Jiwoo touched his arm gently, a silent reminder to stay calm. Then General Krell arrived. The Vraxian military commander was massive, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished stone. His uniform was covered in medals and symbols of rank. He moved through the crowd like a king, and other species stepped aside to let him pass. Krell stopped at Earth's display. He studied the tanks for a long moment. Then he started laughing. The sound was deep and booming. It echoed through the hall. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. Everyone watched as Krell pointed at the M1 Abrams with one of his 4 hands. "These humans," Krell said, his voice carrying across the silent hall. "These humans keep relics of their barbaric past. Look at this. Metal boxes that crawl on treads. They burn chemical fuel to move. They fire metal slugs as weapons." More aliens gathered around. Krell was performing now, enjoying his audience. "We soar on graviton drives that bend space itself. They waddle on tracks like ancient beasts. We harness antimatter, control quantum foam, shape reality with our minds. They shoot chunks of metal and hope they hit something." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Not cruel laughter exactly. More like adults watching children play with toys. Amused, condescending, dismissive. Daewon's jaw got tighter. Hana's fingers moved faster on her datapad, recording everything. Jiwoo's smile never wavered, but her eyes went cold. A crystalline being drifted forward, its faceted body catching the light. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. Perhaps Earth would serve better as a living museum. We could preserve their charming primitive ways for educational purposes. Children would find it fascinating. More laughter. Louder now. Some aliens were taking pictures, recording videos to share with their worlds. Earth's first major appearance on the galactic stage was becoming a joke. Jiwoo stepped forward, her diplomatic smile perfect. "These vehicles represent important lessons from our history. The principles behind them remain relevant even in modern warfare." Krell waved a dismissive hand. "Principles, yes, very cute. Tell me, Ambassador, when your metal boxes meet our quantum disruptor beams, what principles will save them? When our ships move at speeds your primitive sensors cannot track, what lessons will help you?" "Perhaps," Jiwoo said quietly. "You will find out someday." Krell laughed again. "I look forward to it, human. Though I suspect we will all be waiting a very long time for your species to catch up." The crowd dispersed, still chuckling. Aliens returned to examining the truly advanced displays. Earth's corner emptied again. The tank sat silent and ignored. metal monuments to a species the galaxy considered backward. That night, in their quarters aboard the Earth diplomatic ship, the three humans finally spoke freely. "It's already everywhere," Hana said, showing them her datapad. "The galactic network is full of it. Memes, jokes, videos of Krell's speech with commentary. We're being mocked across 40 different worlds." Jiwoo poured herself water from a pitcher, her hand perfectly steady. "Let them laugh. We knew this would be difficult. Earth is new. We have to prove ourselves." "They don't understand," Daewon said. His voice was quiet, but something hard lived in it. "They think those tanks are just old machines. They don't see what they represent." "What do they represent, Captain?" Hana asked. Daewon walked to the window. Outside, Valorum Prime's 3 moons hung in a purple sky. Beautiful, peaceful. He thought about Earth, about human history, about all the wars that taught humanity how to fight and survive. "They represent every lesson we learned in blood," he said. "Combined arms warfare, armor and mobility and firepower working together, the importance of logistics, building machines that can take damage and keep fighting, understanding that wars are won by doctrine and will, not just by having the best technology." He turned back to face them. Those tanks fought in the worst wars humanity ever had. Wars where billions died. Wars that taught us things these aliens never had to learn because they've never faced a real threat. They've been at peace so long they forgot what war actually means. "Then let's hope they never have to remember," Jiwoo said. Hana was still scrolling through her datapad. She stopped suddenly. Her face went pale. "What is it?" Daewon asked. "Reports from the border regions. The hegemony. They're moving more aggressively. Multiple raids this week. The council is calling them minor incidents, but the pattern looks wrong." Daewon moved to look at the data. His eyes narrowed. He had fought in border skirmishes around Mars. He knew what a buildup looked like. "This isn't random raiding," he said. "This is probing. Testing defenses. Looking for weaknesses." "Should we inform the council?" Hana asked. Jiwoo shook her head tiredly. "We're provisional members, new untested. They already think we're primitive. If we start warning them about military threats, they'll pat us on the head and tell us the adults will handle it." "Then we watch," Daewon said. "We gather data, and we prepare." "Prepare for what?" Hana asked. Daewon looked out at the peaceful moons again. He thought about history, about how civilizations that forgot war always fell to civilizations that remembered it. "For them to stop laughing," he said. 3 weeks passed. The summit continued, full of speeches and ceremonies and diplomatic conversations that went nowhere. The galaxy kept laughing at Earth's tanks. The memes never stopped. Then everything changed in a single morning. Daewon woke to alarms screaming through the ship. He was dressed and running to the bridge in 30 seconds. Commander Taeyang Cho was already there, his engineer's hands flying over controls. "Report," Daewon barked. "The hegemony," Taeyang said. His voice was steady, but his face was grim. 17 worlds. Simultaneous attacks. They hit everything at once. Hana arrived, still pulling on her uniform jacket. She took her station and started pulling up data. Her eyes went wide. "Captain, they're here. Valorum Prime." Hegemony ships just appeared at the system edge. Through the viewport, Daewon could see the Council's defensive fleet moving into position. Hundreds of ships, sleek and beautiful, their hulls reflecting starlight. The most advanced vessels in the galaxy, built by civilizations that had mastered physics itself. The hegemony fleet appeared like a swarm of locusts. Not hundreds of ships, thousands. Small craft moving in perfect coordination, controlled by artificial intelligence that calculated angles and vectors faster than any organic mind could. "Council fleet is engaging," Hana reported. The battle started. Energy beams crossed space, bright enough to hurt the eyes. The Council ships fired their weapons with precision. Their shields glowed as they absorbed enemy fire. It looked impressive. It lasted about 10 minutes. "What are those weapons?" Taeyang whispered, staring at his displays. The hegemony wasn't using energy weapons. They were using something else. Something that bypassed shields entirely. Quantum disruption beams that reached through force fields and tore apart ship cores directly. Council ships exploded. Not damaged, not disabled, just gone. Turned into expanding clouds of debris and atmosphere. "The Vraxian flagship," Hana said, her voice shaking. "General Krell's ship. It's breaking apart." Daewon watched the massive warship die. Its graviton drive, the pride of Raxian technology, overloaded and exploded. The blast took 3 nearby ships with it. Somewhere in that chaos, an escape pod launched. Maybe Krell survived. Maybe not. All ships evasive maneuvers, Day One ordered. Random patterns. Don't let their AI predict your movements. The Incheon, Earth's small diplomatic cruiser, was not built for war. It was a courier ship, fast and nimble but lightly armed. Day One pushed it through movements no sane pilot would attempt. Spinning, diving, changing direction at random. Hegemony weapons tracked them but couldn't get a lock. The AI was too smart. It predicted normal evasion patterns perfectly. But there was nothing normal about what Day One was doing. He flew like a drunk pilot, like someone who had no idea what they were doing. It worked. "Captain, we're getting survival signals," Hana said. "Escape pods. Damaged ships. Hundreds of them. Mark them all. Taeyang, can we pick any up?" "Not many. We're too small. But I can modify the cargo bay to hold maybe 20 pods." "Do it." Hana, send a general message. "Any ship still capable of maneuvering, form up on us." "We're getting out of here." "Captain, the Council fleet is retreating," Hana said. "What's left of it?" "Then we cover them." "Taeyang, what weapons do we have?" 2-point defense lasers, 1 missile pod with 6 smart missiles, and a mining laser that was never meant for combat. Daewon smiled grimly. "The mining laser will work. It's not fancy, but it cuts through rock. Metal is just harder rock. Fire it at the nearest hegemony ship. Confuse them." The mining laser was never designed as a weapon. It didn't have smart targeting. It didn't calculate angles. It was just a powerful cutting beam meant for breaking up asteroids. That's exactly why it worked. The hegemony AI didn't recognize it as a weapon, didn't dodge, didn't activate defensive measures. The beam hit a small hegemony craft and burned straight through it. The ship broke apart. "Target destroyed," Hana said, surprised. "Again," Daewon ordered. "Keep moving. Stay random. Don't give them patterns." More ships joined them. A crystalline collective cruiser, half its structure shattered but still flying. An aqueous Federation transport. Small craft and escape pods. They formed a ragged line behind the Incheon. "We're too small," someone said over the general channel. "They'll destroy us all." "Then we take as many with us as we can," Daewon said. His voice was hard and cold. "All ships, focus fire. Pick one target and burn it down. Then move to the next. Don't spread your fire. Kill them one at a time." It was basic tactics. Concentration of force. Something any military academy taught on the first day. But the Council had forgotten it. They fought with individual ships trying to maximize their own kills, their own glory. Daewon fought like he was commanding a tank unit. Units that supported each other. Units that covered each other's weaknesses. Units that won by working together. The ragged fleet started coordinating. 5 ships focusing on one hegemony target, overwhelming it, destroying it, then moving to the next. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't elegant. It was brutal and ugly and cost them ships they couldn't afford to lose. But it worked. The hegemony swarm pulled back slightly, not retreating but reconsidering. The AI was analyzing this new behavior, trying to understand why these survivors were more dangerous than the main fleet had been. "All ships jump on my mark," Daewon ordered. Hana calculated a jump to the nearest safe system. "Somewhere they won't follow." "Coordinates sent," Hana said. "All ships jump. Now." Space twisted. The ragged fleet disappeared, leaving the hegemony swarm behind. They had survived. Barely. In the cargo bay, Sergeant Bora Han worked with her Marines, pulling survivors from escape pods. She was a tough woman, her face scarred from the Mars Rebellion. She'd seen bad things before. This was worse. Aliens stumbled out of pods in shock. Some were injured. Some were dying. Dr. Hyunji Song moved between them, her medical training adapting to alien biology on the fly. She'd studied xenomedicine, but studying was different from treating injuries in combat conditions. One of the pods held General Krell. He was alive but wounded, his stone-like skin cracked and bleeding. Bora helped him out, supporting his massive weight. "Your flagship," she said quietly. "I'm sorry," Krell said nothing. He stared at the deck, at his hands, at the other survivors. His expression was hollow. On the bridge, Ambassador Jiwoo Park appeared on screen. She'd been on the surface when the attack started. Now she was coordinating evacuations. "Captain Kim, the Council leadership is requesting your presence at an emergency meeting." "Tell them I'll be there," Daewon said. "And Captain," Jiwoo added, "they want to know how you survived, how you fought them off." No one else managed it. Daewon looked at the stars outside. Somewhere out there, 17 worlds were burning. The Council's mighty fleet was scattered and broken. Everything had changed in a few hours. "Tell them," he said slowly, "that we used lessons from ancient tanks. Lessons they laughed at 3 weeks ago." The emergency council meeting took place in a hidden station, deep in neutral space. What remained of the council leadership gathered in a secure room. Their faces showed shock, fear, and something else. Shame. Daewon stood before them in his uniform. Behind him on the screen, data scrolled past. Casualty reports. Lost worlds. Destroyed fleets. The numbers were horrible. Captain Kim, the council chair said. She was a tall being from the Luminos Collective, her skin glowing faintly with bioluminescence. "You commanded the only group that inflicted meaningful casualties on the hegemony. Your ship and your tactics. We need to understand how." Daewon looked around the room. General Krell sat in the corner, bandaged and quiet. Other admirals and generals filled the chairs, their proud uniforms now symbols of failure. "You want to know how Earth survived," Daewon said. "The answer is simple. We remember how to fight wars. One admiral, a crystalline being, made a sound like breaking glass. Please don't lecture us about war, human. We have fought conflicts across thousands of years." "No," Daewon said flatly. "You've fought skirmishes, border disputes, conflicts with rules and limits. You've never fought total war. You've never faced an enemy that wanted to completely destroy you." The room went silent. "Humanity has," Daewon continued, "multiple times. We fought wars where entire cities burned, where millions died in single battles, where the only choice was win or be erased from history. Those wars taught us lessons you never learned because you never had to." He gestured to the screen behind him. An image appeared. The M1 Abrams tank from the museum, the one Krell had laughed at. "You mocked this machine," Daewon said. "You called it primitive, a relic. But you didn't understand what it represents. A tank isn't just a weapon. It's a philosophy. It's combined arms warfare made physical." More images appeared. Tanks in formation, infantry supporting armor, artillery providing cover, aircraft striking ahead of the advance. A tank has 3 things: armor to survive hits, firepower to destroy enemies, mobility to control the battlefield. But more important than any of these is how they work together. Tanks don't fight alone. They fight as part of a team. Infantry protects them from close threats. Artillery softens targets before they arrive. Air support eliminates threats they can't reach. That's combined arms warfare. Your ships fight like champions in an arena, Daewon said, each trying to maximize their own glory, their own kills. But war isn't won by individuals. It's won by units supporting each other, covering weaknesses, combining strengths. The council chair leaned forward. "You're saying we should change our entire military doctrine?" "I'm saying you need to if you want to survive," Daewon replied. Before anyone could respond, alarms sounded. Hana's voice came over the communications. "Captain, we have incoming transmissions from Earth. The First Fleet is here." Everyone rushed to the observation deck. Through the transparent walls, they watched Earth's fleet arrive. The council members stared in confusion. Earth ships looked nothing like their elegant vessels. The human warships were blocky and crude. Thick armor plating covered every surface. Weapons bristled from every angle. They looked like flying fortresses. The flagship was massive. The Soul, commanded by Admiral Sujin Yoon. Unlike council vessels with their smooth curves and artistic designs, the Soul looked like it was built to take punishment and keep fighting. Admiral Yoon appeared on the main screen. She was a stern woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She surveyed the council leaders with an expression that said she was not impressed. "Council leadership," she said, "Earth has received your distress calls. We're here to help, but we're going to do things our way." The crystalline admiral spoke up. "Admiral Yoon, your ships they're quite different from what we expected. More primitive in design." Yoon smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Primitive. Yes, I've heard that word used to describe Earth technology. Let me explain something about our primitive ships. They're designed on principles your advanced civilizations forgot." She pressed a button. Images of Earth's fleet filled the screens around the room. "Your ships are scalpels," Yoon said. "Beautiful, precise, efficient. Ours are hammers. We build redundancy into every system. If one power generator fails, 3 others keep running. If armor is breached, compartments seal automatically. If weapons are damaged, we have backup weapons, and backups for the backups. You build to avoid damage. We build knowing we'll take damage. The question isn't if you'll get hit. It's whether you can keep fighting after you're hit. That's what tank design taught us. More images appeared. Strange craft launching from Earth's carriers. They looked like pods heavily armored and bristling with weapons. What are those? Someone asked. Major Dong-hyun Park appeared on another screen. He was younger than Yoon, but his eyes held the same hard experience. Armored assault pods. We call them space tanks. The council members looked confused. Park continued his explanation. They're not fighters. Fighters are fast and maneuverable but fragile. These pods are slow and heavily armored. They can survive sustained fire while advancing on enemy capital ships. They carry troops for boarding actions. They can deploy engineers to repair friendly ships while under fire. They're tanks in space. This is insane, the Crystalline Admiral said. Boarding actions? Repairs under fire? These tactics are centuries out of date. They're centuries old, Day One said quietly. That doesn't make them wrong. The hegemony thinks like you do. They think advanced technology makes old tactics obsolete. We're going to prove them wrong. Admiral Yoon spoke again. We're moving to intercept the hegemony at the threshold system. They're building up forces there for another push. We're going to hit them first. Any council ships that want to join us are welcome. But you follow our tactical doctrine or you stay behind. General Krell stood up slowly. His wounds still hurt, but he ignored the pain. I will join you, he said. The Vraxian Empire will fight under human command. We have been humbled. We wish to learn. One by one, other leaders stood. The Crystalline Collective, the Aqueous Federation, species that had laughed at Earth's tanks now volunteered to learn from them. Good, Yoon said. Captain Kim will coordinate training. You have 48 hours to learn combined arms tactics. After that, we go to war. In those 2 days, Daewon and his officers worked around the clock. They taught alien commanders things human military academies spent years drilling into students. Formation flying, mutual support, concentration of fire, fighting retreats, the importance of logistics and supply lines. Dr. Yunwoo Choi, Earth's xenotechnology specialist, worked with Tai Yang to modify alien ships. They added redundancy where possible, stripped away fancy systems in favor of reliable ones, made ships uglier but tougher. Hana ran tactical simulations with alien officers. At first they struggled. Their thinking was too rigid, too dependent on their advanced technology. But slowly they started to understand. War wasn't about having the best weapons. It was about using whatever weapons you had in the smartest way possible. On the second night, General Krell found Daewon in the observation deck. The human captain stood alone, staring at the stars. Captain Kim, Krell said, I owe you an apology. What I said at the summit, about your tanks, your history, your people. I was wrong. Daewon turned to face him. You weren't completely wrong. Our weapons are old. Our ships are ugly. We are primitive compared to the rest of the galaxy. Then why do you win? Krell asked. Because we've lost before, Daewon said simply. We've lost so many times so badly that we learned every lesson there is about warfare. We learned them in blood, in burned cities, in fields full of graves. The galaxy thought our history of war was something to be ashamed of. Maybe it is, but it also means we know how to survive when everything goes wrong. Krell nodded slowly. Then teach us, Captain. Teach us how to survive. That's what we're doing, Daewon said. And tomorrow, the hegemony is going to learn the same lessons you're learning. The combined fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the threshold system. Earth's blocky warships led the formation. Behind them came the remaining council vessels, now arranged in proper battle groups instead of scattered individuals. On the Sol's bridge, Admiral Yoon studied the tactical display. The hegemony had gathered a massive force here. Thousands of ships, all controlled by their artificial intelligence network. They expected easy prey. They were about to learn differently. All ships weapons free, Yoon ordered. Remember your training. Support each other. Cover your wingmates. Fight as a unit, not as individuals. The hegemony swarm detected them and surged forward. Thousands of small craft moving in perfect coordination. Their AI calculating the optimal approach angles. They moved like a school of fish flowing around obstacles, responding to threats with inhuman precision. They opened fire. Quantum disruption beams lanced out. The same weapons that had torn through council shields before. The weapons that had destroyed hundreds of ships in the first battle. The beams hit Earth's lead destroyers. The ships shuddered. Armor plating glowed white-hot. Some sections exploded outward as the quantum weapons found vulnerable points. But the ships didn't explode. They didn't break apart. They kept coming. Damage report, Yoon demanded. Destroyer Busan reports heavy damage to forward sections. Fires contained. Backup systems online. Still combat effective. Destroyer Daegu reports hull breaches on decks 4 through 6. Compartments sealed. Crew evacuated. Still combat effective. Yoon smiled grimly. The hegemony weapons were powerful. But power meant nothing if your target was built to absorb punishment. Earth's ships used layered armor that could be ejected when damaged. Redundant systems that kept working even when primary systems failed. Damage control teams trained to handle fires and breaches while fighting continued. Tank design. The principle was simple. You will get hit. Built to survive it, all ships return fire, Yoon ordered. Railguns, maximum spread. Earth's destroyers open fire. Not with energy weapons that the hegemony expected. With railguns, solid projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic fields. Simple, primitive, devastating. The hegemony's shields, designed to disperse energy, did almost nothing against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The projectiles punched through shields like they weren't there, hit ships, tore through hulls, launched the pods, Yoon said. Major Park sat in the lead assault pod surrounded by his team. Behind him, hundreds more pods launched from Earth's carriers. They looked clumsy compared to sleek fighters. They moved slower, but they were built like tanks. Heavy armor. Redundant systems. Weapons designed for close combat. The hegemony AI identified them as fighters. Calculated intercept vectors. Assigned weapons to eliminate them. The pods shrugged off the fire. Armor plating absorbed hits that would vaporize normal fighters. When sections were damaged, they ejected, revealing fresh armor underneath. All pods, target the nearest capital ship, Park ordered. Formation Delta. Mutual support. The pods formed up into groups of 5. When one took heavy fire, the others provided covering fire. When one needed to maneuver, the others protected it. They moved like tank platoons, supporting each other, making the group stronger than the sum of its parts. They reached a hegemony dreadnought. The massive ship tried to swat them away with point defense weapons. The pods ignored the fire, closing in until they attached to the hull. Breach, Park ordered. Cutting torches burned through the hull. Sergeant Borahan led her Marines through the breach, weapons ready. They found themselves in a corridor filled with aliens who had never expected boarding actions, who had never trained for close combat inside their own ships. Bora's Marines had trained for exactly this. Room clearing, close quarters combat, fighting in zero gravity. They moved through the ship systematically, capturing key systems. Bridge secured, Bora reported. Engineering secured. This ship is ours. Tae Yang-cho led a team of engineers aboard the captured dreadnought. His fingers flew over alien controls, adapting his knowledge of Earth systems to the strange technology. I can't control everything, he said, but I can control the weapons. Firing on hegemony ships now. The captured dreadnought turned its weapons on its former allies. Confusion spread through the hegemony formation. Their AI tried to process this new development, one of their own ships attacking them. It didn't fit any program scenarios. While the hegemony AI struggled to adapt, Hana coordinated the rest of the fleet. She had studied Earth's military history obsessively. She knew every battle, every tactic, every principle. Council ships, implement Fire Plan Gamma, she ordered. Concentrate on sectors 3 and 7. Ignore everything else. Kill them one at a time. The council vessels following human doctrine focused their fire. 5 ships targeting one enemy, overwhelming it, destroying it, then moving to the next target. The hegemony AI was sophisticated. It could calculate angles and vectors better than any organic mind. But it was programmed for individual combat. Ship versus ship, not coordinated group tactics where multiple ships work together. It had never faced tank warfare in space. All ships advance, Yoon ordered. Maintain formation. Don't break ranks to chase targets. Stay together. The combined fleet pushed forward like a hammer. They took damage. Ships were hit, crew died. But they kept advancing, kept fighting, kept supporting each other. Daewon commanded a battle group of mixed council and Earth ships. He watched his displays, saw the patterns forming. The hegemony was adapting, but not fast enough. All units prepare for artillery barrage, he ordered. The galaxy had forgotten about artillery. Space combat was supposed to be elegant, ships maneuvering, firing precisely at other ships, using smart weapons that could adjust their course. Earth remembered artillery, remembered the terror of shells falling from the sky, remembered how kinetic bombardment could break armies. Fire, Daewon said. Earth's destroyers launched swarm rounds. Each projectile broke apart mid-flight, splitting into thousands of smaller munitions. They spread out, creating clouds of high-velocity fragments that filled entire sectors of space. The hegemony point defense systems tried to intercept, tried to track thousands of individual targets. They couldn't. Too many. Too fast. The fragments tore through the hegemony formation. Ships took catastrophic damage. Explosions bloomed across the battlefield. The perfect coordination of the AI-controlled swarm broke down as ships tried to evade, to protect themselves, to survive. Enemy fleet is breaking formation, Hana reported. They're retreating. Let them go, Yoon ordered. Secure the system. Recover our people. Repair damaged ships. The hegemony fled. For the first time in decades, they abandoned a battlefield. The AI transmitted its data back to hegemony leadership. Detailed analysis of everything that went wrong. Every tactic it couldn't counter. Every principle it didn't understand. In the aftermath, the combined fleet held the threshold system. Ships were damaged but repairable. Casualties were heavy but sustainable. They had won. General Krell toured the Sol with Admiral Yoon. He saw the damage. Saw the repair crews welding new plates over breaches. Saw medical teams treating the wounded. Saw a ship that had taken terrible punishment but was already being made ready for the next battle. This is how you fight, he said quietly, not trying to avoid damage. Accepting it. Surviving it. Coming back stronger. That's what tank doctrine teaches, Yoon said. The enemy will hit you. That's not a failure. That's expected. The question is whether you can take the hit and keep fighting. Everything else is built on that foundation. News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than the mocking memes had weeks earlier. The species that had laughed at Earth's primitive tanks now studied battle recordings, trying to understand how humans had done the impossible. Ambassador Jiwoo Park negotiated from a very different position now. Earth's provisional membership became full membership. Humanity earned a permanent seat on the Security Council, and every species wanted human military advisors, but the war wasn't over. The hegemony had been checked, not defeated. They were analyzing, learning, adapting. The next battle would be harder. Daewon stood on the observation deck of the Incheon looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the hegemony was preparing. Somewhere out there, more battles waited. But now the galaxy knew. Those ancient tanks weren't relics to be mocked. They were teachers. And their lessons had just saved civilization itself.